How do you identify personally and in engineering contexts?
Well, I'm Black, and that's kind of obvious. There's no denying that. It's not something that matters in a lot of settings, but it's something that is very noticeable in others. I have especially noticed it in academics, some social settings, and in certain professional settings because that's when I start to be, the odd one out. And I identify as female, and it's impactful to me. But it's not really that big of a deal in my major because there are a lot of other women. I notice it most when I'm browsing around for jobs and stuff. I feel like it may make a difference there, but in my day-to-day life, it's usually fine. Other than misogynist jokes, which really annoy me, it is just kind of what it is.
What are some identity-related challenges you have experienced in engineering?
The first things that come to mind are more general things, like stuff with the Supreme Court, people not wanting women to have rights, just like the general terrifying stuff, misogyny that you face, and people think you're too chill to say anything, and you usually don't say anything because you don't want to be seen as difficult. In college, I've been around women who said, this guy disrespected me and had a condescending attitude, and this other guy didn't trust my work just because I'm a woman. These guys think I'm meek or I can just be toyed with because I'm a girl. And with race, you kind of end up being the representative of all Black people, which is unfair. So you don't want to ask certain questions in class, even if you really need to know because you don't want to be perceived as dumb. Because if they think you're stupid, then they might think, oh, all Black people are stupid. Not everyone thinks like that, but it still happens. And even if no one says that to you, it's something you feel. Other things happen more in social settings, where around certain friends or past friends I've been treated in ways that were disrespectful, and it went on for way too long. I just heard things here and there, and I wasn't able to react like myself because then they would box me in as someone who's difficult or angry or too sassy, labels that often get ascribed to Black women in ways they don't get put on anyone else. It's really unfair, but we have to deal with it anyway. One friend group of mine that was predominantly male made a lot of edgy jokes. Not all of them, but a few of the guys would make jokes at the expense of other people, especially minorities. And not just me, any minority. I don't remember everything, but they would use the N-word or make other super racially motivated comments. One guy called me property, like quite literally property. And if you're joking as part of the group, okay, that's fine. But to be outside of that group and make those jokes, it's like, why are you so comfortable with this? It's weird, and it makes me uncomfortable. And I don't want to paint the narrative that they are these awful people with no empathy or anything. These were my friends, and there were times that they were very present for me when I needed them. Like one time I took the bus to the hospital, but I had no way to get back, and they really came through for me. They would sometimes just get a little too comfortable around me and say things as jokes that made me very uncomfortable. It wasn't all the time, not even the majority of the time. And I know I'm not this perfect angel. I'm aware that I'm somewhat enabled this behavior. But a few times I actually stood up for myself, and I said, hey, I'm not cool with this, but I was too scared to actually leave. So nothing ever really changed. One of the most hurtful things that happened was that one time I said something mean about one of the guys who wasn't there. And someone else was like, hey, that's not cool. I thought about it later, and I realized that I had texted him before about how hurt I was from some of the jokes. And he said he told the other guy to knock it off in private, but nothing had changed. And he never stood up for me in person. But now that it was me saying something edgy, he was so easily able to stand up to me in front of all our other friends. I started getting really angry and worked up. Why doesn't he stand up for me? Like, am I not worth standing up for? For a long time, I had this sense of like, we can work this out. Nobody's perfect. And there's plenty of good to go with the bad. But it finally reached the point that I didn't want to continue being friends with this group. I didn't even have a conversation with them or anything. The semester ended and I just kind of left.
If you gave advice to someone like you, what would you say?
Oh, I'd say really think about values and what you want to be around. It's kind of forced me to put my foot down about certain things, to say enough is enough. I know that women who look like me, people who look like me, are expected to endure. Because that's what we've been doing for a really long time, but I was not put on this earth to suffer. I should not suffer. I don't deserve that. So even if someone thinks I'm unkind for being authentic and standing up for myself, I guess that's just how they feel. I can't control anybody, nothing's by force, but I can control me. And I can remove myself from certain situations if they are not benefiting me. Or maybe I can speak to someone and say, that's not cool. And just go after what you like. It might seem scary. There are certain things I didn't do because I was afraid. But I think I probably would have had a more enriching experience if I was just authentically myself, and if I had asked more questions about opportunities. You deserve the best. So as long as you're not being unkind or causing anyone harm, you might as well just be yourself. You don't owe anyone a mask. You don't owe anyone a facade of yourself. Like, they're not getting the degree for you. It's not easy, but just try to be yourself.